I'm Bill Gross, the LAProbateExpert.com. So each week I try to focus on one of the 11 ways that we can find deals in real estate, either as an agent to list and sell property, or as an investor to buy property. So I have a thesis that I would say where there's not just two, but there's 11. The companies that sell data, and most of the companies that coach real estate agents and investors on probate, really only talk about two of the ways to get business. One being solicit petitioners, heirs or executors of estates or administrators of estates, or solicit the attorneys, which can be very difficult in competitive markets. And my thesis is there's actually 11. If you go to the YouTube channel, you'll find I do occasionally the 11 ways to get listings in real estate for probate. And that's at probateweeklyepisodes.com if you want to check the YouTube channel. But today we're going to go over one of those 11 ways. And number 7 is courthouse farming. And this is really one that I use to really break my business wide open pre-COVID. I started in probate real estate full-time 2.5 years ago in March. And this was the method I used to go from 0 listings, 0 leads. Now I had an SOI, I've been alive for many years. I was 60 at the time, but I wasn't a realtor before that. I was a manager and a coach and recruiter, and all my leads were real estate agents. So I didn't have any buyers or sellers. And I started from scratch, and this is the method I used to go from 0 to within a year. Let me make sure I'm accurate with that. Within a year, I ended up with about 28 pending or closed escrows. So this is the technique I use. I'm going to walk you through today the techniques I used. So we're going to talk about courthouse farming today. Now, I use that term specifically because many real estate agents think of farming. What's farming? Right? The classic real estate farming technique is you take enough houses you can door knock each about every 90 days. If you do 100 a day, 20 days a month, 60 in a 90-day period, 60 times 100 is 6,000. So you get a square block or rectangle, about 6,000 houses. And you go from one end to the other, and you go back to the beginning and hit them all every 90 days or so. And then you might postcard the ones that you've met and social media geographically in that area. That's what, and you might call them on the phone in that area. That's what you would call geo-farming, right? Or standard residential real estate farming. Drop off flyers at the door or door hangers or whatever. That's the classic real estate marketing technique. So I'm going to use the same term. And so how do you get hit by a car? If you said to me, Bill, I want to commit suicide by getting hit by a car, what would you do? You would stand in traffic, right? You go to the 10 freeway at rush hour, somebody's bound to hit you. Well, as a real estate agent looking for probate leads and information, where would you get hit by that car? At the probate courthouse. So we're in the meet the people business. So what was my job? My job was to meet people there and to meet who did I meet? Families that were losing property in disputes or trying to get property passed into probate, real estate agents, investors, attorneys. And so I was just meeting people, and it got to a point where I learned so much, I started hosting a meetup at the court a couple days a week to meet additional investors, wholesalers, some realtors. So I would meet 3 or 4 people. Now you might say, well, Bill, why would you, if you're a realtor, meet other realtors? And it's the same reason why I do this phone call. One reason why is we realtors work together. We find deals we can't handle and share them, whether geographically too far apart or maybe it's a type of product we're not familiar with. So I would tell you this, I would watch court proceedings. And that meant in person, it also meant online. So in person, I would go and watch the proceedings pre-COVID. Now, different story now with COVID in some courts. In other courts, you can. So again, if I wanted to build a probate business, I at least would go to court daily to figure out what's going on there, to put a plan together on how often I should be there and at what days and what times. And one of the things I would say is there's no substitute for seeing things in person. So that's in person. And of course, today we have online. Some jurisdictions have Zoom or Microsoft Teams or the equivalent online service. Okay, so next, hallways. Now, again, we're real estate agents. We're in the meet the people business. So I got there early on purpose. Why? Because other people might drive from Orange County or Riverside and get there a half hour early, I'm their new best friend. I'm there to talk to them. I'm there to meet them, introduce myself. My goal was to meet 1.5 people a day, get name, address, phone number, and email, and permission to stay in touch with them. I would want to get 8 every week. That was my goal. Okay, so one of the ways that I would get business would be to bump into people in the hallways. Again, real estate's a contact business. It's a numbers game. And I would try to meet 2 people every day. I didn't do it every day, but I would try to meet 2 new people every day that I could be in contact with. And then also in LA County is the research room. And that was on the 4th floor. And that's where you go to file documents, again, pre-COVID, or computers. They had research that you couldn't get at home, where you could pull up certain documents you couldn't see unless you were at court, or it's just convenient to do it there. So for me, any research I do online, I would try to do it at court because it gave me an excuse to sit there in the courtroom's research room. And I had a cup of coffee, and I would sit there and do my work. And if I had an appointment, let's say, like I live in West LA and court's downtown, and maybe I'm done, and it's 10:30. My next appointment's not till 12 in the Valley. I might hang out in court for an extra half hour, 45 minutes. So I'd sit in the research room and just be around people who'd walk up. I met one of the top attorneys in LA, just sitting in there, and he asked me what I was doing. And we started talking. I haven't got any business from him yet. But we've talked to a couple of deals. I showed him a couple of properties. So being in the research room was very valuable. So the clerk's is another one. Now, I think sometimes I'll hear coaching companies talk about how easy it is to meet the clerk and call them and ask them for questions. Let me tell you, in LA, unless somebody has a different experience, I don't believe you're going to get any help on the phone from them, and you're not going to meet them in person and be able to get any assistance from them. They're just not. They're government employees. They might tell you they're overworked and underpaid, but whatever, they're not, in my experience, going to give you that extra help. In other counties and other states, that might be the case, and I would meet the clerks. But I'll tell you what is true is the judicial clerks, the clerks in the courtroom that help a particular judge, those people I would always show respect to, treat them properly, follow the rules, make sure they see me following the rules, because they're the ones that get your documents signed by the judge or not, or there's all kinds of things they can do to help you. Okay, so those are the clerks. Vendors, there are people in court who all they do is work in the courthouse to get business. The bond reps, now I'll tell you, I never had any luck with them. But there's an example of people who go to court regularly. The runners, the guys who are running every day from major law firms, documents into the courthouse, getting them filed, dropping them off with judges, picking them up at the courthouse. You want to meet those people. They can tell you what's going on. They can tell you where the information is. They can tell you where the problems are. They can tell you who's changing law firms. Your client might, I've had that happen. Attorneys change from one law firm to another. How would I know that unless I'm talking to them? Sometimes the runner would tell me. So the vendors would be another source of business in the courthouse. So wrap up. We talked about there's a number of different ways to get business. There's 11 in total. And today we talked about one of them, number 7 in my numbering system, courthouse farming.